Is it time to bring back the shark? That's the topic of today's video, as after the Charles Omenihu injury tearing his ACL, he's out for the Super Bowl. Could you sign back Frank Clark? A little reunion for the old playoff shark. Well, that's the topic of today's show, and I want to get you weighing in on this right away. No time wasted. Your answer right here, right now. If you want the Chiefs to sign Frank Clark, then get in the comments and type S for sign. If you're thinking this is crazy, why are we even talking about this? I don't want Frank Clark. He's washed. No worse. No reason to get him. Well, then type P for pass. Let me know in the comment section if you're signing Frank Clark with an S or if you're passing on him with a P. Now, if you're a little bit behind, in case you missed it, Omenihu was ruled out for the Super Bowl after he tore his ACL, confirmed by an MRI yesterday. Jordan Schultz breaking the report saying that it was a torn ACL. Is that what he suffered against the Ravens in a game that he had a huge part of, forcing a fumble on Lamar Jackson? And honestly, after that 6-game suspension he had in the early part of the year, well, he was a menace on the football field, forcing sacks, forcing fumbles. He was all over the field. And ultimately, 7 sacks in 11 games is really freaking good. And he was a big key in this Chiefs team going through the postseason. Now, you don't have him in this defensive line. Well, it loses a guy who was a big key. Now, right now, here's what the line looks like. Nadi's still labeled as injured because we don't have a report on him yet. Chiefs will start their practice on Thursday. If you missed the video about the Chiefs Super Bowl schedule and what exactly is going on and what Andy Reid said in the bye week, go check it out. It's one of the past videos. It'll be in the description of this one. But guess what? For now, this is what we got. Mike Dinn at the defensive edge. Chris Jones, the defensive tackle. Nadi is injured. We're expecting him to be ready and available to play come Super Bowl time. George Karlaftis. We will talk about all that coming up here. But why is Frank Clark mentioned? Well, guess what? Here's the thing. Clark was talked about for a long time as a potential reunion with the Chiefs. And now there's a chance for him to kind of hit that exactly. How exactly? Well, right now, you're missing a defensive edge threat. That's exactly what Frank Clark is. There was some time in the beginning of the year where it was like, okay, well, if someone gets injured on the interior, do you get Frank Clark because he's more of an edge rusher? Well, now you need that edge. And let's go back to October, where he was actually released. And so now he has been turned, and he's been actually talked about as a return for Kansas City being the most likely scenario. How could that possibly work? There's a lot of different ways we could kind of see this go about. Obviously, you just sign him. You're too late in the season? No, you're not. You can sign anybody if he's a free agent. And ultimately, I think his stats with the Chiefs, well, they're pretty good for what you would have to get at this point in time. In 2022, last year, his most recent year, 39 tackles, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble is not bad in 15 games. And for what you're expecting out of him as a depth role here, it kind of makes sense to bring him back. I mean, 14 games prior, he had 4.5 sacks, 15 games, 6 sacks, 14 games, 8 sacks back in 2019. He knows the defense, and it's kind of like McCole Hardman where you got him. It's easy to see him kind of coming in here and playing an important role. And the bigger reason, playoff shark. You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, let's just say Frank Clark was good in the regular season. He was great in the postseason. In fact, he had really a lot of greatness. 10.5 sacks in 12 games. That's nearing a sack per game. 32 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. Frank Clark in the playoffs was equivalent to what MVS has done in this playoffs in a way, if you want to kind of quote that. His regular season was okay. His postseason, mag-freaking-nificent. You may as well sign him, and hey, maybe he could come out here and show a little bit of that previous thing. Show a little bit of what he showed back in the postseason. In fact, I kind of am curious. Do you remember the playoff masterclass that Frank Clark put up in the past couple years with the Chiefs? If you do, then type me, because I know this was an important topic. So type me if you remember Frank Clark's playoff masterclass. Get in the comment section. Emmy, I'm curious to see who remembers. This would make someone very happy. And if you're wondering who, maybe you haven't watched this show enough. Maybe you don't understand the Chiefs report or the Chiefs news. Frank Clark was best friends with Chris Jones. And Chris Jones has been advocating for Mr. Frank Clark to come join the Chiefs for a long time now. In fact, He wanted him to be signed back. When he got cut, he was really frustrated. So much to the point that Chris Jones, his current Twitter/X header, that's Frank Clark. And just a couple days ago, he tweeted out, "Blood is in the water," with a shark emoji and a blood emoji. And he posted this exact picture of Frank Clark. Listen, I'm not here to kind of vie and say that players should make decisions for organizational standpoints, but I will say this. If you want to please one of your top guys, potentially bring him back next year for maybe a cheaper price, this would be a way to please him and say, hey, we're going to get your guy a second ring. We're going to get your guy back in here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. So I'm curious to see, but I'll tell you more about my take on it and if the Chiefs will actually move forward with this in just a second. But I can tell you one thing that you should get into, and that's Prize Picks by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using the code CLNS for your first deposit match of up to $100. Don't know what Prize Picks is? Well, I'm going to tell you. Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. And the cool thing is it's not just NFL. Obviously, with the Super Bowl being the last game of the season, where do I put my Prize Picks in, Chase? They've got NHL. They've got NBA. They've got MLB coming up. So, and you can also combo these projections. You want to put a Super Bowl Prize Picks in and then combo that with an NBA Prize Picks? You can do that. How do you play? You choose 2 or more players going 2 to 6. You choose more or less on each of their Prize Picks projected stats. And then you choose flex or you choose power play depending on your confidence level in them. Now, what you asking my picks would be for the Super Bowl? Guess what? They're nice. I'm going more than a half a passing yard on Patrick Mahomes. That's a little deal they've got going on right now. Go take advantage of it. More than a half passing yard, I'd say he's going to hit that. Go take it 99% off right now. Isaiah Pacheco, more than a half a rushing or receiving touchdown, basically. He's just got to score, which he's done in the prior 2 or 3 playoff games, rather. And then Christian McCaffrey, 35.5 receiving yards. He did this against the Lions and the Chiefs, who have been notably poor against the receiving backs. I think it's pretty much a lock here for McCaffrey to hit that, so I'm going the more on that one. This is going to be a good game, and they're going to use McCaffrey in a lot of different ways. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Here's my take on the whole situation. I don't think the Chiefs will sign him. Because here's the thing that is concerning to me as to why. They had the chance to sign him. They did. There was a clear, open opportunity for them to sign him, and they didn't pull the trigger. So much so that he was reportedly getting physicals with the Chiefs training staff. Let's just go back. I mean, what happened here? Clark was released from the Broncos after they lost to the Chiefs in Week 6 on Thursday Night Football. And then literally a couple days later, that week, he was rumored to have been talking to the Chiefs and, in fact, getting a physical with them. He tweeted out so much to say, hey, Red Kingdom, I land on Friday. This guy was hinting at it like nothing else. And then he signed with the Seattle Seahawks. He was then released, though, by them in Week 15, which leads us to here as to him being free to sign for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Now, I don't think they will, but maybe I'm in the minority. Do you think that Brett Veach will actually pull the trigger and sign Mr. Frank Clark? You think he will and you trust that Brett Veach is going to do this? Then type Y for yes. If you think, Jace, I'm kind of agreeing with you, they had the chance, they didn't do it, then type in for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video Y for yes if you think Veach will pull the trigger, in for no if you think he will not sign Clark. Now here's the edge rushers the Chiefs currently have. Dana, Karlaftis, and Omenihu. 50 tackles, obviously, for Dana. Karlaftis, 47. Then Omenihu, who is now injured, had 28, but he had 7 sacks in just those 11 games played. Tackles for loss subside with Dana and Karlaftis both having 7. But again, Omenihu only playing in 11 games. And you're looking at this saying, okay, Dana and Karlaftis have this covered, but I think they'd want some depth. Is that going to be Frank Clark? Maybe they just say that's the internal replacement. We talked about him yesterday, but I almost think this is the time where the Chiefs say, hey, we had a first-round pick for a reason. We haven't really used them because we haven't had to, but now we have to. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, it's your time to shine. Listen, he hasn't done much in 2023, only tallying 14 tackles and a half a sack. But ultimately, at this point, you kind of need him. It's the time. Omenihu's out. You have to be able to put somebody in that slot. Maybe Anudike-Uzomah could do that. Now, if we look at his last 2 college seasons with Kansas State, he was impeccable. 96 tackles, almost 20 sacks, and then bang, 25.5 tackles for loss. He played 26 games in those 2 seasons. He was having just shy of a tackle for loss a game, plus 8 forced fumbles against a loaded Big 12, I might say. The Big 12 is usually pretty good, and in his 2 years there, they had New Year's 6 bowls like crazy, and yet he was really, really good. So why not take a shot on him, play him, and hopefully maybe he can be the internal replacement that you don't have to worry about signing Frank Clark. I hope they figure out this in one way or another, and I'm curious to see how this is all addressed by Andy Reid going into Thursday when the Chiefs start practice. So we're going to keep you updated, though, on everything, and if the Chiefs do sign Frank Clark, well, guess what? We'll be right here to cover it pretty much instantaneously. So make sure you are subscribed, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. We keep you updated on everything as we head toward the Super Bowl, and I'm excited for February 11th when the Chiefs take on the Niners. But for now, Chiefs Kingdom, that's all we got. Peace out.